I mean, I have so many like little like turns of phrase, and I gotta be careful what I say on here because I
Yeah.
don't want to. I just don't want to
Yeah,
be. I
yeah.
don't want to go down for saying the wrong thing,
Yeah.
but
Go down the rabbit hole.
it kind of, for me, Instagram is kind of like Vegas. If we all have herpes, no one has herpes.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like if we all have a million plus likes on something, it really means nothing. It's become so minimalized by this oversaturation of people just wanting to be liked, and it's like seekers instead of being actually liking what they're behind.
James, it's been a while since we had John. The last time we had John, I looked it up. It was like February 2021, I believe. I think
Gotcha.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. And then I was looking at it and I said, that's the first time we actually used StreamYard. And you had like you, I think Emily, Amy, and John. I think is it
That's
John?
right.
Yeah. From
Yeah,
Paper
Johnny. That's
Jackets.
right.
Yeah. And look how far we've gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's crazy, man. Like in all that time, even though it's not been that long in the grand scheme of things. A lot has changed. Some things are good, some things not so much. COVID, I think, too, really affected a lot of things, but people are tired of hearing about that, so
Yeah.
we can stick away from that topic. But ultimately, I'm just excited to be out there making new music and getting things put back together in this sort of new mindset and this new framework that we've been doing it in. Um, the project is just like my stage name, which is Jamie G Mason, or Jamie Mason. I've got a couple songs out right now. It's nothing really like really super interesting or special, but this new record that's coming out and this new single, they're gonna put it on DC 101, which is really awesome. Mike Jones has been super, super kind, and the people over at iHeart have been awesome. They got a new program for up and coming like acts called New It Too, which is where they kind of like, feature new artists on the station. So I'm like really excited about that. It's just been a really cool journey. It's just lately things have been a little tough, but like I think a lot of that is like when you go through these little like hurdles in life, it like I gotta be honest, I think things were a little too easy in the like past life, and in this new life, it's really kind of kicked me into gear. So I'm really excited about just the whole new journey. So it's been something, it's been, I
So
gotta
so
say, it's
what do
been
you
exhausting, but we've been having a really good time getting into it.
so what do you mean by it's been like easy in the past life? Like is it more or less like you're finding like now again, I don't want to put
Well,
words in your mouth, but as someone like in podcasting and trying to compare it to music, like I'm looking at when you were with so I don't know if this is still a thing, but if you were still with Paper Jackets, the Fake Stacy's, it's like you have a group, but this feels more like you're out on your own and you're kind of like, okay, it's me, like I make or break this.
that's exactly right. So
Yeah.
like back then, there was more of a budget, a label behind it, people like rallying behind you. And since then, there's been, all kinds of trials, tribulations, and like, not to sound too cliche, but like there's not so much of that support. It's like you said just now, like it's kind of been on me to do that, and it's been very difficult in that sense. But I'm not, I ain't
Yeah.
scared. I'm not like unhappy about it. It's just been a little bit harder than in the past. Um, Making the records has been a little harder too. Like out in Virginia, just like out in Canada, like in certain parts of like rural Canada, it's harder to find producers. It's harder to find musicians. Um, After COVID, I moved back to my hometown where I got my ass kind of handed to me. Like, I mean, I handed my ass to myself, I should say.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it's just been a fucking, a whole different ballgame. So like, I'm not bitching about it. It's just definitely a different scenario completely. Um, but with all that, I think we've kind of like uncovered a lot of cool things as well. So, take
I
that for what it
understand.
is.
I understand where you're coming from because, like, again, I'm from Newfoundland, Canada, right? So I
Right.
feel like if I'm in a Toronto, like I'll put in like Canada terms than the US terms, but if I'm in like Toronto or maybe Vancouver, I know I have more options of like media because that's our two megas. But then someone in Toronto is probably like, yeah, that's good. But if I was in LA or New York and I'm like, I gotcha, but I'm from Newfoundland. So step one to me is Toronto and then work your way to New York or LA. But it all depends on what you're in. Because if you ask a country music act, I guess, and again, that's a changing shift too, but it's like, we're going to put you in New York. They're like, fuck. It's like, I want to go to Nashville. I'm just still like,
Yeah,
me,
it'd
on
be
the
a
other
whole
hand,
different story if I
I'm
was in
like, I want to
Nashville.
go
Yeah,
to New York. Yeah.
right. Well,
Yeah.
like, or even New York, Nashville, any of those like sort of gold mine like music towns. There's a lot more kind of popping off, and like it just becomes there are more obstacles. And I guess you could say that there's like golden opportunities in disguise, but it's just been a little bit different. And I'm grateful for everything that's happened, like all across the board. Like there's nothing I would take back about it. Like I fell in love with, a woman out here that kind of like changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I think it's about perspective. It's not just like, like the experiences kind of lead you to where you need to go. Um, when I was in LA, things were cushy and I didn't even realize it because I was there so long. I just kind of like was in that whole circuit. Um, just like you were saying, like, when you're in those bigger cities, it's easy to find folks to play with. It's easy to get to gigs. It's easy to get things moving. So it's just been a little bit more challenging in that regard, but I'm really excited about like what the future holds. And I think this record's going to really be cool. Um, a lot of it is kind of starting out again and, breaking your teeth. And I'm just excited to kind of see how that moves me in a new direction. So
So the one thing I want to do, like before we kind of get into like certain aspects of say an album or songs that I've listened to, it's like I find there are certain people when I turn on a radio and like it's not like, oh, it's like one in five. There's like I know there's a lot of musicians out there when you hear them, you're like, okay, that's definitely this person. I pick up the tune on that one, but it makes it very distinguished. And then that way you know them. But like I find from like I think I have the Fake Stacy song, which was like Another Kid in America. And sometimes
right,
I will taunt that in my own voice because I have a niece and nephew, and then they'll
right,
come over and be like, "Man, like you're just like another ref to us," or like you're just like because I ref ball hockey, and I'm like, I'm just another ref in Canada, and they're
right,
just like
right.
they're like, "Who are you singing?" I'm just like, "Don't worry about it." It's like this is between me and inner me because I think it's funny. And then they're like, "You're a
Exactly. Yeah.
loser."
I
Yeah,
find myself poking fun of myself. I'm sort of like a parody of myself in that sense.
yeah.
Um, I'm like I'm a walking clown a lot of times and wearing clown shoes and like I don't mind like sort of
Self-humor.
being like, I don't know, like self-deprecating in that way. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm like probably the most cringy person on the planet and I don't care about that. In fact, I think it's kind of amusing, at least to me anyway.
No, no.
And
I
and the
say it
people
as a compliment. Don't take it the wrong way. Because I listen. I grew up in Canada where we have Sum 41, Simple Plan, and like you go on TikTok now, and they're like, "Sorry, I can't be per," and I'm just like, that was me when I was younger, and now there's a generation out there that does that for TikTok. So I'm just
right.
like, that can be you, but this is the Fake Stacy song is my kind of perfect. Where I'm just still like, I'm just another kid out here, man, and
Yeah,
fucking, I
yeah,
just want
man,
you to find
totally.
me funny.
And the
Yeah,
funny thing is, dude, the fake Stacy's project is definitely still like alive and well. And like
yeah.
I'll have to get back on when we put out that record as well. Um, this is just the thing I'm doing, you know,
Yeah,
like
it's something that you're
alongside it.
interested in. Yeah.
Well, it's just like what I have control over at the moment, right? Like,
Yeah.
like I can do the Jamie Mason stuff because I am Jamie Mason. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
fakes. You know what I mean? Like the fake Stacy stuff and all this other paper jacket stuff. It's like it's a whole. People don't realize this, man. That's a whole thing, dude. That's
Yeah.
not. It's bigger than myself. Like in a lot of ways, I'm not in control. I mean, I try to be, but you got a
Yeah.
label telling you what to do. You got other band members saying what they want to do. You've got managers. You got whatever. And I think what's kind of cool about this is that like, I mean,
You're the
like
be all end all.
yeah, and
Yeah.
those people are cool, and that's what it takes eventually. I think to really make make this business, like make it, essentially when you sign up for a band, you're starting a small business, right? And
Yeah,
everybody in the business falls in line, and wherever you fall in, you realize at some point that you really don't have control, whatever you want to call it. Like you don't really have a say. Like, I mean, to a certain point, your voice is heard, but
yeah.
it's not. You
Well,
know,
I
it
think
like
I think I think a good example for me, like from what you're going off of, is like I look at it from when I was a kid listening to Blink 182. Now they're a band, but like at that point I liked their music. But then like to see them expand over time, where like now when they release music, the same like with Ed Sheeran, it's no longer like now they could still have a good friendship or partnership with a record or a label group. For the most part, I'm looking at Tom DeLonge post stuff from his own like studio down in his basement, or Ed Sheeran saying like I'm going to my own studio and I've got my own acts now, and I'm just like I feel like a record or label group is probably like, oh god, it's like now they're going to start making and signing other acts. I'm just like, yeah, but that's kind of what they came here to do, is like they want to be in control of their own music and their own content.
ultimately, I think that's what everybody wants: artistic say or control. Like control. I
Yeah.
hate to use the word control because I'm like I don't consider myself a controlling person. I think other people might disagree, but dude, I'm just a guy like
Yeah.
with a guitar, you know, a box of strings. Like I'm just out. I'm trying to make something cool. I'll talk a little bit about the So this song is called Hunger Pain,
Okay. Yeah.
and recorded it here in Gainesville, Virginia, not to be confused with Gainesville, Florida, which a lot of people would was more recognizable city in the United States. But Gainesville, Virginia, with Austin Bello, and he is formerly, or I guess he's still technically in the bass player of and a huge creator of the band called Forever the Sickest Kids. And
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of them. I've heard of them.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they've done quite a lot. They had their time, and they're still honestly, like, I look up to those guys like hard, man. When I was going through the ranks or whatever, and you know, like I'm like an emo pop punk kid like at heart. So they were out there just shredding that whole thing, and they kind of did it at a time where that was really cool and happening. And you know, I find myself doing that after the fact, and people look at me like, "What are you doing? Like, you what do you just come out of a time machine like from 2010 or something, you know?"
Yeah.
And then to those people I say, you know,
Yeah.
suck
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
you know, on
It's
this
okay. It's
one.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, that's okay. You can have whatever thoughts you want, and I don't think you should ever like, you know, sacrifice what you know what you like or whatever. But ultimately, so we were down there making the songs basically about when I got out of rehab. I was with this woman, you know, the next day I picked her up from jail. You know, I had probably like a few lovely hours before she started taking drugs again, and I was back in the same fucking bullshit. And I'm not blaming her. I started taking them too, and just the song's basically about just like watching your life crumble in front of you, no matter what you try to do to get away from this fucking bullshit. It just comes back to haunt you, and that's a big part of addiction. Is a big part of what happens when you get into this whole business of like giving yourself away for just a short little bit of relief. And this is the song's about. And it talks about how we all have like a hunger pain, maybe a little bit of something missing from our regular lives that keeps us like super happy, a hole that we're trying to fill. And I think that people are going to really identify with the song. Like I said, like the mix and the budget behind it isn't Paper Jackets. It isn't a label
You. Yeah.
funded project, but it's dope. And I think you heard the song, so I think you can speak to that on that note.
I I was gonna say, so like I'm not trying to take away from the new one either. Like I listened to the new one and I really like it. And I was kind of go off the point earlier where it's like when you have distinguished voices. So like I know your voice when it comes out a song. And then
Right.
it's like so when I hear yours and I was just like, okay, I like it because you already like the act. So therefore you kind of give it more of a chance. Like if it's a new artist and you've never heard them, you're kind of like, you better fucking come out with something that I like. And then you're like, okay, I like it. Let's see what you come out next. But when it's like a voice that you like I will listen to Ed Sheeran's albums, and sometimes it's like not the greatest song that I like, but I'm like, it's Ed Sheeran. I give him more of a like a little bit of a bias. So now
Right.
that I know your voice, I'm just like, all right, let's listen to it. And like I'm usually that like listens to 30 seconds and it's either like make or break. But with your voice, I'm just like, all right, let's keep going. And I'm like, okay, I fucking don't understand this line, James, but I'm gonna keep going. And then it's just like,
Right.
gotcha. Okay, now I get it.
Follow a
But
little
like,
bit further and
yeah,
see.
yeah. But like, I find so I like that one, but I heard, and again, I'm like slow on Instagram because I'm at my own world. But when I heard "Baby Please" too, I was just like, man, I like this one too. This is good too.
Yeah, see,
But I
"Baby
was like,
Please"
yeah,
is probably like the best song that I've ever been a part. Like
but it's so good.
that's
Like
me.
two of them are good. It's just that again, everyone has a preference. It's just to me, like I'm kind of a poppy guy, but like "Baby Please," I feel like I can go on a cruise in a car and I'm listening to it, and I'm just like, damn straight, "Baby Please." But then it's
Damn
like
straight,
when I
"Baby
listen
Please"
to
for
the
sure. And
when I
maybe we
listen
should
to
be
like
talking
"Hunger
about
Pain."
that. I'm glad you brought that. I'm honestly glad you brought that up, Tobin, because that dude, that's the kind of same sort of like trajectory that I've been going off of. Like I put that song out because it it is my best song, I think, for sure. And also I thought, given the fact that it was afforded such a low budget and whatever, that maybe it wasn't going to be so important to put anything behind. I pitched it to DC 101. I pitched it to people, and they kind of were just like, yeah, that doesn't fit on our radio station.
Yeah,
And oftentimes the best songs don't fit on anything, but that's cool. And then so you get kind of caught
I
in the
think it's
sticky
cooler
business.
not to be on a radio station if
I
you don't
think you're
mind me
right.
saying.
It is
Yeah,
cooler not to be on a radio station.
yeah.
So, but here we
That's
are
me
playing
being
the game,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we'll get this one. They're gonna make a video. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do that. They're gonna stroke everything they can stroke to get something out of it. But yeah, like, to be honest with you, I think the real truth and the real muscle and the real heart behind this act is songs like "Baby Please." Um, and I'm glad you brought that up, man. Like that's a hugely important song to me. Um, I wish that I could. I wish man, we're just starting here out, so we're gonna build it up a
Yeah.
lot. Maybe it'll come back around. Maybe we'll re-record it. Who knows? And make a bigger deal out of it. But I'm really glad you brought that up.
Well, see, the thing is about radio, and like I know sometimes up here in Canada, like we have country music acts that like um you'll hear them on the radio and like that's a really good song. But then when you actually interview them, they'll be like, did you know that on my album that wasn't the one that I wanted to release? It's like the record label or
Right.
something pushed that. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. They're like, because they wouldn't play this song because it referenced this. And I'm just like, that's weird. But when I go back into like I guess I call it my iTunes library on my phone, like I don't remember hearing Jeremy Zucker on a radio station here in Newfoundland. I just scrolled across Instagram one day and heard the song Honest. And I think he has another one with like Tate McRae, which is Canadian. And I was like, man, Jeremy Zucker. I like Jeremy Zucker. Then I go across, and then sometimes on Instagram, there's like ones out there now like Beach Crimes. And they're like a little bit more dance poppy, but I'm just like, I like that. But I don't expect me to like fall into a Newfoundland radio and be like, hey, do you got the latest Beach Crimes? They'd be like, what are you talking about? And I'd
Yeah.
be like, yeah,
Exactly.
never mind, never mind. Of course you don't.
Yeah. Oftentimes it's not always what their first choice is, and I think people are looking for a certain kind of thing to like fill a spot,
Yeah.
and it has to do with way more like, I don't want to say politics, but it has to do with way more than the actual like integrity of the song and lyrics. It has to do with like, can we play this? Who's gonna, how quickly are they gonna, skip the next song or whatever. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the real listeners out there will decide what they like and what's best. I'm glad you brought that up. I truly like that you came across that and found it um to be something,
I just
worth mentioning.
I like that like there are like again, it's no offense to like whichever path you want to take. Like I know there are people that are like will make a song and then it becomes like TikTok famous. So then I know it through TikTok and I'm like, great, cool. Like I'll download it because I like the full song, not just the 30-second clip that you play. But then there's like the ones like Adele that's like, you can do that for that generation. I'm gonna make music for people who want to actually listen to the whole album. And I like that
Exactly.
yours is like I like that for me anyway. Now I could be like someone else could say, no, you're wrong. But I like, especially at this point in my life, when I listen to like anything that you kind of put out, it might take me like 3 or 4 months before I'm in that stage. But then when I'm in that stage, I'm just still like, yeah, I can totally relate to this song. And I'm glad that it's a full song and not some fucking 30-second thing I see on TikTok where like some
Exactly.
13,
Yeah.
13-year-old kid is like, yeah, no, I totally relate to this. I'm like, you're 13.
Things have
You're
become so
13.
far removed.
Yeah.
things have become so far removed and displaced, like from like what's real, that it's everything now is like a synchronized dance on TikTok and like a bunch of people shooting confetti out of their
Yes.
ass.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really get it. I'm of the generation, and then this kind of ages me by saying words like that, like I'm of the generation, but
Yeah.
like I don't know, man, and I don't know how long that's gonna last. Like honestly, I think those kids are gonna feel really foolish one day about their choices and their taste.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, that leads to the next thing of like maybe that's part of their growth, you know, is
Yeah.
realizing like that was some you know, I
Well,
don't
we
know.
grew up with I'm of the generation that I grew up with like MSN and I guess the beginnings of YouTube, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that like I don't really have a track record on either. Like now I have a podcast obviously, but I mean like I don't have a track record of me flipping out at video games because if I did, oh boy, those videos I'm glad are on VHS.
They do. And what's funny about VHS and like now what HD like or 4K, it's almost like too revealing, like too many pixels. Have you ever
Yeah.
watched Harry Potter? Like, cause I when it came out, it was on a VHS or it was at least on a D. Like, it was like, dude,
It
if
was
you
good enough
watch
to
that shit,
watch.
if you watch
Yeah.
any of those movies now, like repurposed to like a 4K or like something super high definition, it almost looks awkward that there's so much definition in it that it's almost it takes away from like the sort of like the
The
mystery of it
nostalgia?
or like
Yeah.
I don't know, like they're uh, uh, you can like see into their skin almost,
Yeah.
and it's like gross.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because like if you watch like a classic sports channel, like so if we have like ESPN up here and you go back and they're like NBA Finals from 2003, I'm like, oh, that's got to be one where like Kobe or something's in, right? So I'll go watch it, and of course they bring the screen like this because they don't have full HD, and
Right,
I'm like, damn, like this is like a slow playing game, and it's kind of pixelated, and then someone's just like, look how good Kobe is shooting tonight, and I'm just like, I
right,
guess like I can I is that him? Like I can see a 24. I guess that's 24. And then when you go to high def, it's like I can literally see the sweat dripping off Dwight Howard. I don't need to see the sweat dripping off Dwight Howard. Please just
right.
back
No,
up, please.
it's distracting, and people don't even.
Yeah,
I think most people don't even realize it because they're like. I think most people, quite frankly, aren't even. I think most people that are absorbing content are just kind of passersby. They're not
yeah,
actually like they're not actually like understanding, but there's something like subconsciously like something's wrong here, you
yeah.
know? Like it's like
That's how I feel
I
about
don't know. I don't
that's how
but
I feel
whatever.
about a lot of TikToks and Instagram posts where it's like you have, and I know we're in a different kind of generation where people like want the likes, the views, and then you know what? That's going to turn into years of like later where people are going to be like, wasn't always about the likes and the views. Like that person got,
It's
yeah,
not about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And nowadays it's become so like I mean I have so many like little like turns of phrase and I got to be careful what I say on here because you know, I
yeah,
don't want I just don't want to
yeah,
be I
yeah,
don't want to go down for saying the wrong thing,
yeah.
but
Go down the rabbit hole.
it kind of for me Instagram is kind of like Vegas. If we all have herpes, no one has herpes.
Yeah,
And what I mean by that is like if we all have a million plus likes on something, it really means nothing. It's become so minimalized by this oversaturation of people just wanting to be liked and it's like seekers instead of being actually liking what they're behind.
yeah.
So just to kind of like sort of talk a little bit about this record. It's called We Are All Diseased. That's the main record that's going to be coming out.
Okay,
This is a single off of it. We're making a video. Again, the single is Hunger Pain. There's a couple other singles off of it, and maybe we could, you know, chat a little bit more about that once we put those into motion.
quotations. Yeah,
But yeah, man, I'm just kind of like stoked to get back in this business and like kind of with fresh eyes and a clear air. Um, it felt like for a while, especially during COVID, and I feel so sad that COVID seems to be like has seemed to define I feel like COVID's everybody's like excuse for why their business failed, you know. But in all actuality, it was a real thing that happened, and people's lives were totally changed, and I get that, but I really am just excited to like reset, regroup, put this record out, get back out on the road, and make something really really cool happen with it.
Can I tell you something really quick, like funny about like I guess in my own kind of humorous way of COVID story.
Yeah, yeah,
So like when you say like when people are blaming like saying like, oh well, my business failed because of COVID, it's funny because I had that conversation with myself when I came home to Newfoundland from Ottawa because COVID was like, okay, we gotta send people home, we gotta do this, or like, and I just ended
yeah.
up getting, but I was like, I sat we moved from my old house, but I sat at my couch and I was just still like, so if COVID is shutting everything down, I'm like, how the fuck are we gonna keep this going? Because acts are not gonna want to talk about nothing if they come on. And then
Right,
I was like, so I guess do we stop going? And then another part, like one of my friends is like, hold on, if they don't have concerts to do, don't you think they'd have more time then for you to do stuff? And I'm like, that's a good point. And then so then I started reaching out to people, and I was like very surprised at how many were just like, oh fuck yes, I want to talk to people. I'm just like, why? Like, wouldn't you enjoy the like slowness of COVID? But I guess they were kind of like, I am so tired of looking at four walls. You want to do a conversation with me by camera? I will take anything at this point. And I was like,
right, right, right.
okay, I guess we have something here. And then like it just continued. And then even after COVID, I was like, now we got to be hitting a dead space. And then people are like, but you did so well during COVID. I'm like, thank you. But I'm just like, people still died. But I'm just like, me personally,
Yeah,
I did
no, and
okay. I
I
did
don't.
okay.
Yeah, and I don't
No,
mean to
no,
be
no.
insensitive
No, no,
about the deaths and all that, but
no, but I understand it. Like people are like complaining, like all business, and I get that. But I'm just saying, is I was at that crossroads too, and I'm sure it could have, if it could have went like it was on the fence. It could have either went away where like, fuck it, I want to take a break. I don't want to do interviews because why?
dude, I kind of
Yeah,
felt like we all had to take a break during that time, and the people that didn't, like,
they're
they
burnt
got
out.
broken in some kind of way, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Moving on past all of that, it kind of does feel like this is a new sort of slate in a lot of ways. I think it also killed a lot of dead waste, and I don't mean that by talking about the
no,
people that
no,
actually perished,
absolutely.
but it was like those people that couldn't didn't, right?
Yeah,
And now we've got like just a lot of people out of the business. Um, and now we're back in, so it's like get back on the horse, you know, and let's ride,
yeah.
you know. And
The
I'm a
horse
big
that
fan of
flew you
outlaw
off, get back
country.
on it.
What's that?
No, I said the horse that like basically kicked you off. It's like get back on.
You got to get back.
It's
Yeah, you got to get
it's
back
okay to get
on.
back on now.
Yeah, and so we just got to get back on and move forward, and like I don't know, take all of what we can to just I don't know. There's not a lot of ways I can really put it. We've kind of said it, but ultimately I am excited for this new project and like getting back on, and you know, and then like it also gave us a way to kind of like, you know, a lot of record companies dropped artists, and I almost feel like looking back at this through new eyes, I'm like, fuck record labels, dude. You know what I mean? And fuck people taking like 20%. Fuck, you know, fuck people like asking me for money for this. All of that. I look back at it, even the Trump administration, there was so much fucking money in the economy.
Yeah,
And now we're at this point now where it's like there's we're in a pretty bad economy here in the United States. There's not a lot of money. There's a lot of people suffering. I mean, there's a lot of rich people doing okay, but
yeah,
bandmates, people that are in this business aren't typically falling into that category unless, you know, unless you're like on the other side of all of that. So for me, I'm just been fortunate enough to see this through a new lens, and very excited to kind of get moving as that goes forward, you know, and we'll see how that materializes.
so you're saying it's a bad time for me to ask you for $20?
What's that?
I said, so you're saying it's a bad time for me to ask for $20?
Yeah, it's a bad time for you to ask me for $20. It's a great time to find like $1 on the street. You know,
Yeah.
you might get excited about that.
Yeah. We do this with every act to close it out. A game of random questions.
Okay,
I,
let's do it.
All right. So the first one they have. Now these are like random as like they're totally odd. Some of them are funny, and I think this one's going to be really funny to start off with. But if animals could talk, which one would be the biggest asshole?
Which one would be the biggest asshole out of an animal?
Yeah, I'll
I
give you
mean,
my answer.
I
I'll
kind
give
of
you
feel
my
like,
answer.
oh, you got it. So you're gonna answer
No,
the question, or I'm
no,
gonna
no, no,
answer
no,
it?
no, no. You can answer, but I'm just going to say like I do have an answer for what I think it would be.
Hold on. Can I phone a friend? No, I'm just kidding. Hold on. Can I phone a friend?
Go for it.
All right, just 1 second. Let me consult my friend here.
Go for it.
Okay. Um, the biggest asshole. Part of me wants to say a donkey just because they are an ass, but that just
Yeah.
seems too easy.
Yeah.
But I would say like I would say I would say a primate because they're the closest to man.
Okay. I was gonna say a parrot because a parrot just repeats whatever it hears, and then sometimes that could be like the biggest, like, someone just walking. Because if all animals are gonna talk,
Right.
some
I think
some elephant
the most
says,
vocal. They're the most vocal.
yeah, like some elephant goes like, "Did you see that giraffe over there? Fucking long neck piece of shit." And then the parrot's like, "Long
Right.
neck piece of shit, long neck piece of shit." And they're like, "Keep it down,
I
parrot."
really don't know. I've never once thought about an animal being an asshole because I don't think they, you know, I'm not
Hey,
fond
there
of
are animals that are
dogs.
assholes. No. Yeah.
I'm not fond of big dogs.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, listen, I have a small, like, we have two small dogs. One's a pug, and it's like really gentle, but people are scared of it. And I'm just like, why are you scared of Toby? It's a pug. And then we have Cooper, which is like a Shih Tzu, but Cooper is very protective of like everything. So if
Right.
you go to touch the toy, it shows its teeth. It fucking wants to nab at you, and then later on that night, be like, "Sorry about that, dude. Can I come crash in your bed?" I'm like, "You tried to bite me earlier." It's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, but you tried to take my toy, so I figured that was even."
I think dogs are assholes only because they're owned by people that like give them too much credit, you know?
Yeah, cats. I feel like cats.
Not saying by
Yeah,
you
yeah,
loving your dog
yeah,
that
yeah. Oh, I'm an
your dog's an
asshole.
asshole, but
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
the fact that they can
yeah,
just walk around without doing anything
yeah,
special and just
yeah,
get a lot of love for no
yeah.
reason
I'll let
makes them an
Cooper. I'll
asshole.
I'll let Cooper know. Cooper, I'm sorry you're an asshole. It's my fault because I loved you. He'd be like, that's okay, Brian. I'd be like, clearly it's not. uh, the next one we
No,
have
look,
is
and to all those animal lovers out there, especially for dogs, I have nothing against you, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
just think that you know,
yeah,
it
yeah,
is what
yeah,
it is.
all right, let's see. Okay, let's see what we have. Oh, okay. This one's not bad. What sport would be the funnest to add a mandatory amount of alcohol to?
Oh,
There's so many that I
a
think are good.
mandatory amount of alcohol too?
Yeah,
What sport?
I go with UFC just to see.
Yeah. Oh man.
Come over
Yeah.
here. I'm gonna
Yeah.
fight. I'm gonna
UFC could be
fight
cool,
you.
but I feel like that. Yeah. No. That would probably be interesting. Like for sure. It's like the most deadliest sport with the most deadliest.
But that's I mean. It's like then it becomes another level of okay. Now we gave you so much beer each. Which one can hold the beer down, kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough one, man. What and so I feel like in answering that question, I have to wonder like why it would be funny to add alcohol to any sport. And I'm trying to think like how it could be funny to add because most sports require like coordination, and like
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, like I think like scuba diving,
Okay. Yeah. I feel like
like
I feel like
that would
yeah,
suck. That like what are
yeah.
the like
It,
or like I
it's
don't know like anyway, I guess let's do the next question. You're right. I think you're
yeah.
right with UFC.
All right, let's see. Okay. Oh, this one's not too bad. Okay. I'm just looking to see. Oh, okay. Which would you prefer to have as your roommate, a goat or a bird?
A goat or a bird as my roommate? Definitely a bird. Although I think I would be upset with like I don't like I think goats would shit a lot over a bird, but bird shit just seems gross to me because they could fly around and just like shit willy nilly everywhere.
Yeah.
But I definitely I can't. When I think about roommates, I just think about how much shit they're gonna leave around. So I guess a bird would have less crazy shits.
I guess so. Yeah. I feel like for me, I don't know. Maybe I watched too much of How I Met Your Mother, but I just think the idea of a goat would be kind of interesting because I
But
mean,
a
like a goat.
goat indoors?
Yeah, I guess, but I mean,
Like,
like
I mean,
it says as your roommate. It doesn't say it has to stay inside. I'm,
it doesn't say it has to stay inside. So your roommates in the past have lived in barns or outside?
I will not speak of the past. The past is the
In the
past.
past, dude, I'm renting one stall.
Yeah, my roommate in the past, he
Do
still
goats
lives
stay
here.
in stalls or they're just outside free range?
Yeah, I feel like goats are like. I mean, listen,
I,
there's a
I don't
sport
know
it's
enough
called
about
tipping over
animals to know
goats.
that.
Yeah.
All right. I like these questions, Tobin. This is probably my favorite part of this whole thing, I
Yeah.
gotta say, so far.
All right.
Besides you being awesome and cool.
Let's do one more and then we'll do like the extra. Oh, okay. This one's not an animal one. But if you could be in any movie, what would it be?
If I could be in any movie, like a
Like
genre of movie or
no,
like
like
an actual movie.
any movie. Like any if you want to go with genre you can, but I mean like film. Like any movie
Oh,
that you
okay.
see.
Oh man. That is really there's a lot of movies.
I can give you two because I've thought about this before this question's even come up. I would
Oh
think
yeah. Okay. I'd like to be Sharon Stone in the movie Casino, but as a man.
okay. I
You
mean
know when she's like flipping out on the front yard?
yeah.
That's probably one of my all-time favorite scenes, apart from like, yeah. Well, no, I don't know. Or Joe Dirt. I'd like to be in Joe Dirt as Joe Dirt.
Okay.
Or Kid Rock in that funny scene. No.
Yeah.
Joe Dirt when he's like putting the lotion on, he's like, "Jeez, man."
Yeah. I for me, if I had to be like an actor or something in a specific movie, when I grew up, I was like, oh, I want to be in Mr. Deeds because it's my favorite one.
Mr.
But
Bean?
no, Mr. Deeds.
Oh, Mr. Deeds. Mr.
Yeah,
Deeds. Okay. Yeah.
that's my favorite movie. But when I as I grow like grown up somewhat, I was like, man, if someone was giving me a role in a movie, I'd go with
Dude, I would want to be in the.
Superbad.
I want to be in one of the Coen Brothers movies. Probably that one about bowling where there's like nothing is fucked here, dude.
Oh, okay.
You know what that movie? What's that movie called? I can't think of it now. The Big Lebowski. I would want to be in the Big Lebowski.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Nobody fucks with the Jesus.
I just want to be in Superbad because I think they had like, even though it's a movie, I think they just had a fun time filming that.
Yeah,
and it's an idea that I'm just like, you don't have to cast me as Jonah Hill, but I can be Michael Cera.
Michael Cera. You want to be Michael Cera?
Yeah, I could be Michael Cera in that movie, the nerdy, like kind of like smart guy, but like
or like
he's
this
smart,
is the end. This is the end.
Yeah. I could.
I would be. I'm trying to think. Like, I think if I really, really wanted to be, you can tell the sun's gone down completely.
Oh yeah,
now.
It's starting to get dark.
Isn't that kind of funny how we started out and it was up? Dude, I would probably want to be in one of those crazy Marvel movies just so I could do some cool fucked up shit. You know what I mean? Like,
that's fair.
Like, I don't know, a Superman movie or fly around and like shoot laser beams out of my eyes or something like that. That'd be kind of cool.
I mean, if I could shoot laser beams out of my eyes, I'd be concerned for everyone around me.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to James Mason for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying thank you for listening and good night.